Tell me you work in a kitchen without telling me you work in a kitchen. I'll go first. Hey man, I thought it said 86. The Alright guys, today we are making brownies. And yeah, I know most of you are probably thinking, what kind of brownies, Kevin? Not those. Although I will instruct you on how to make those kind of brownies when you want me to. Maybe even today. Alright, anyways. So, we're going to start off. I see I've got my double boiler here, which is a pot, water, and then another pot, so that way I don't scorch any of my chocolate or anything like that. I'm going to start off by melting this down. And what I have here is 145 grams of bittersweet chocolate. This is 60 grams of unsweet chocolate. I'm going to go right in there. And then with that, I'm going to add 290 grams of butter. Now, notice that this butter is not green. You can also use 290 grams of green butter to get a desired effect into the bowl. And what you're going to do is you're going to let this melt down until it's all melted and good and incorporated. Alright, so as you can see, we are pretty well melted down here. And while we're waiting for the last little bit of butter to really melt in, I use Ghirardelli chocolate, if anyone's wondering. It's, I don't know, I like it, it's sweet, it's nice. There really is no reason, I just like using Ghirardelli chocolate. You can use whatever you want, quite honestly. Yeah, and then also this recipe, I'm going to be calling it out in grams, just because when it comes to baking, it's more of an exact science. Culinary, just cooking something, I can, measure with love, my heart. I can look at something and I can adjust along the way. Whereas with baking and stuff, you really want to be more exact. You can't exactly stop mid-bake, taste it, and say, ooh, this is gonna need a dash of this. So you've got to be really exact with what you're doing. All right, now that we are completely melted down with this, we're going to pull this off of the heat and we're going to let it cool down completely to room temperature. I'll probably stick it in the refrigerator for a few minutes. Okay, so while that's cooling, what you're going to want to do is grab you like a 9x13 or a couple of 8x8s, and you're going to want to butter, or you can use pan spray, whichever you want to use, but you want to really heavily grease this pan and use flour, so that way this has very little chance of sticking. So we're going to do that right now. Another thing with this recipe is I've also altitude adjusted it. I live in Colorado. I live above 5,000 feet, or close enough to it that it actually does affect the baking of a lot of my goods. And altitude adjusting, basically what you're doing is you're taking the liquids, some of your fats, but mostly your leavening, such as like your baking powder, your yeast, your flour, baking soda, even eggs, and you're adjusting so that way you don't have, because you don't have near as much air pressure pushing against your product. Get that nice and greased up. That's beautifully greased. Get all around the sides too. And so with not having much oxygen to push back against, you don't need as many leavening agents such as baking powder and stuff, which is going to make your product rise. And so without having to have much air, you don't really need as much in the way of leavening. And so I've already adjusted this, and on the Facebook page I'm going to go ahead and post what an altitude adjustment sheet looks like. There you go. Alright, so we've got this pretty well buttered. And I also am going to flour the bottom of my pan too. There you go, that's kind of how we want it to look. There's a little bit of excess, we'll go ahead and knock that out. Alright, I'm going to make a mess today too. It's not my kitchen, I'm not worried about it. Anyways. For this recipe, right here, I have 60 grams of unsweetened chocolate, 145 grams of bittersweet chocolate. Both of those you guys saw melt with the 290 grams of butter. You're going to do 220 grams of eggs, which is about 4. 244 grams of sugar, 2 grams of kosher salt, 8 grams of vanilla, 120 grams of bread flour, and optionally, if you want to make it more cakey, you can add a few grams of baking powder. I'm not going to. So, all right, as we wait, there you go. All right, chocolate is cooled. Let's go ahead and get onto this recipe. So we're going to take our sugar, eggs, and our vanilla. We're going to mix them all in a bowl. I'm going to hand mix it just because I don't want to over whip it. And you mix it all up. All right, so there you go. Got my whisk. We're going to mix it all up nice together. Now the reason I'm not wanting to whip it is I'm not wanting to add more bubbles than I need to, because that, like we had talked about a little bit ago, is part of leavening. So you just want to have it good and incorporated, just basically until the eggs start to change to a little bit more of a pale color. And then that's when you know you have everything mixed up together good. Alright, it should look about like that. I don't know if you can tell all that well. And then we're going to mix in our chocolate, I believe. Yeah, we're going to mix in the chocolate. Leave that there, screw it. Put that in. I know you can't really see this. I should probably have done this way. Look, there we go. You really want to use your spatula. This thing is like $1 million tool. You can save so much money. Look how much comes off with that spatula. So pretty. There you go, clean. We're gonna mix now that everything is mixed together. Your chocolate and egg mixture. Look at that, yummy. So now I'm going to take and sift in my flour, because you don't want any chunkies in there. You don't want any clumpy ups. There you go. Sift it on in. This really just to get the big chunks out of it, so you don't have like any chunks of flour when you go bake it. And it's going to make it a little bit smoother. So we'll mix this all together. Ooh, she's really coming together. And also you can take your spatula and scrape down the sides of this, which you're going to want to, so you can make sure you've got everything incorporated. Scrape those sides down. Every little bit of morsel that you can into this. Now that everything is incorporated, we're going to go ahead, dump it on in there, into our floured and greased pan. Okay, what you want to do is just evenly, as you can, spread this out into your baking tray. Your 9x13, your 8x8, whichever you choose, but just make sure that it is well greased. And if you have it, you can use an offset spatula to make this look. Alright, all of this is now together. Looks pretty sweet, doesn't it? And then we just need to pop it in our oven about 45 to 50 minutes. And what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to check on this in about a half hour to see where we're at. And I'll probably take and I'll put a toothpick right in the middle. And if it comes out clean, we are done. So we're going to get this in the oven. See you guys in a little bit. Yeah, I know it's raw egg. Guess what? We're fine. Okay, we're back. And I checked these after about 30 minutes. And they did the toothpick test and they came out nice and clean. So let them rest for another 15 minutes. And here we are. Let you guys take a look. That's pretty, isn't it? Take a bite. Mm. Mm-hmm. Another amazing brownie. Another amazing creation. These are good. You guys should definitely try this recipe. Mm-hmm. All right. The recipe for this will be down in the description. Like every week, thank you to Matt and Gerard. Thank you, Mercer Knives. I used Shamrock for pretty much all of my groceries this time, so thanks to them as well. You guys have got to try this. It's really good. Mm.